want to do you like that. Peace. Oh shit. Oh shit. I'm done. Oh, they poisoned me. I can't even hear my opinions. Oh. Peace and welcome to World of Wrestling. So today is gonna be a little bit different. A little bit different. Very different. It's gonna be not so different. It's gonna be very much what I originally intended to do, which was just enjoy watching pro wrestling. I was already watching professional wrestling every single night for the past years. Basically, I was already watching wrestling, but during the pandemic, I just explored so many new options that I had never seen before, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have never seen. Because a lot of people, as soon as you give negative feedback to something, they're a lot less likely to watch it. So you have to be very careful with what you say. So I've watched Raw, Collision, SmackDown, and Rampage. I've also watched TNA and Ring of Honor, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows that I've watched. And instead of doing the format that I've been doing, I'm just gonna try. I don't remember any of the matches offhand. I did not take any notes at all. Maybe I took some notes. I don't know. I don't think I took any notes. I took some notes for Raw and Dynamite, but I already recorded that episode, and everything I said was past that point. And I recorded for NWA versus NXT, which was something that I wanted to do for quite a long time. So the mega show, I guess you can call it. You don't have to call it that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this episode, honestly. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm in a weird place because I'm kind of like hyper analyzing like the viewership, but it's like a brand new concept that I'm making legit just to like do something with the amount of professional wrestling that I watch. So this was something that I had to do regardless of whether people watched it or not. But if people aren't really watching it, then I feel like I should just really do what's best for my schedule then, you know? Because trying to record each individual episode is like trying to watch each individual episode, you know? Beforehand, if I didn't like a match, I would just skip it, you know, and I didn't have to like be held accountable for not watching that match. And like I would literally say like, "Oh, well, they're not going to know I didn't watch their match." Now they will know if I skipped their match because I'm going to get to a point like The Miz and JD McDonough and be like, "Oh, I didn't actually watch that match. It might have been a banger." And judging by like the Judgment Day match tonight with JD and R Truth, I missed a banger because the Miz was not there to support R Truth. Probably because R Truth was not there to support the Miz because he's too busy shucking and driving for Judgment Day. Even after they let him know he's not even in Judgment Day, he doesn't even go here. I kind of reached the conclusion. I reached like multiple conclusions. This feeling began. I was watching SmackDown and watching Rampage, like whatever. But I think either before or during, I didn't watch like everything in order. But I was watching like Ring of Honor and watching TNA, and I just like fell in love with professional wrestling again. Watching Ring of Honor and watching TNA, primarily watching TNA. The last episode of TNA was like pretty freaking amazing, to be honest with you. Um, it's not written down here. The Trey Miguel match was really good. I do not know if I remember seeing Josh Alexander, but the Alex Shelley finale with Eddie Edwards, oh my god, like oh my god. Like if you were ever going to show someone one match, like why do you like professional wrestling? I would show them the Alex Shelley versus Eddie Edwards match. and they'll at least be able to say like, wow, like no, I totally see why you watch this. And you'd be like, is every match like this? No, it's not. And I think that's kind of like you'd be surprised by this. I think Chelsea Green made the greatest point about this. There's so many different eras of professional wrestling that people have fallen in love with. And what Chelsea Green said recently was that she feels like she would have been perfect for the Divas era. You know, the fragile porcelain, the porcelain dolls that what's it called? Athena calls these women. You know, it's like he used to like. I remember it. No, I remember like for real. And Here Comes the Pain for like PlayStation 2. If you hit a woman with a snapmare, that was a finisher. You know, and like that was their finisher. Like they had like booty finishers. Maybe if you like customized it differently, I don't know. I only made like male created characters. I didn't like do, to my memory, I didn't do any female created characters. And I just like maxed out my one created character, so whatever. But you could hit a woman with like anything in these games, in the game, and it would be a KO. IRL, it got to a point where the woman would do a spot that wasn't as, I think it's just it's pushed to, there's some women that have pushed it to a point in which it is MMA fighting, and there are women really going out there trying to be as good as the guys, trying to be better than the guys. And then there are women out there trying to be women, you know? And it's interesting that you have a talent like Max the Impaler and you have a talent like Giselle Shaw who are the top of their class, but one is non-binary, one is a woman, and they're the top of their grade. Meanwhile, you have a lot of men on the roster who are underutilized, and it's pretty brutal, you know, because you can't get all of them up there. But for a while, just being a woman in wrestling was enough, and then you had to be a woman that could take bumps on bumps on bumps. Then he needed to be able to have an Iron Woman's match. And then he needed to be able to have hardcore matches. And then he needed to be able to juice and cut blood for the company, you know. And Chelsea Green was like, "That's not what I signed up for." It's like I didn't sign up to be a freaking MMA fighter. I signed up to be a diva, to be a woman in wrestling, you know, to be a character, to be a gimmick. And I just feel like when you're watching these shows, I feel like one, it's important to realize like these are real human beings. So when you're watching like AEW and these guys are like trying to kill each other or get as close to death as you possibly can, these are just like bros, you know? Like, do you remember being a kid and you guys would like play with the ladder and jump off the roof and shit like that onto each other? And it's like, oh, I'll catch you, I'll catch you. It's like, oh, fuck, dude, you barely fucking caught me. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Do you want to try it again? Yeah. And then you guys fucking jump off. You know, like these are just bros, man. Like these are the same human beings that go to war. These are the same human beings that used to fucking murder each other with swords and metal suits of armor. Like just stupid shit, you know? Like just like in retrospect, like the dumbest fucking thing you could ever fucking think of doing. But these people kind of like glamorize this shit to a point in which it's like it almost loses its meaning because you become so numb to the violence or you become so lost in the spectacle and the grandeur of it all that you forget that two people could just have a good wrestling match and the good wrestling match by itself can be entertaining, but it's not like that because a lot of people did not get into professional wrestling from watching like this like over and over again. A lot of people did not get into professional wrestling to be a professional wrestler. A lot of people did not get into professional wrestling because they were wrestlers. A lot of people see this as a stepping stone or a platform. I think someone brought up that Dwayne the Rock Johnson was only a professional wrestler for like 7 years because like just like his daughter, like they got in through nepotism. They were a nepo baby. They did what nepo babies do, but he was extremely talented. But he went on to just do something else because why the hell would you get dropped on your head for a living? Why the hell would you get injured for a living? Like why would you deal with the fucking politics of professional wrestling for a living? Um, a lot of guys I feel like get away from it. But when I think about that, I feel like a lot of those guys are the ones who are kind of like politicking the system. And this is watching like 4 or 6 different wrestling shows back to back to back to back to back, and just kind of like paying attention to how they interact with one another. And it sometimes seems like the guys who are supposed to be enemies actually get along great in real life, and the people that are supposed to be friends fucking hate each other. And I just think about it's like reality TV almost. It's kind of like that. So I don't judge people that watch reality TV shows or any of that because I watch professional wrestling. But I guess you call it like ring psychology or mat psychology. I just feel like some people are so much in their own head when they're out there. They can't really get into the crowd or get the crowd going or anything like that because they're so like they've become such a mark for themselves. It's no longer enjoyable to really watch them. And I think that's it. I think that's one of the major issues in professional wrestling is that there's no real like humility. Everyone thinks that they're the best. Everyone thinks that they're supposed to be the champion. Everyone wants to be on top of the mountain. Everyone wants to be number one. There can only be one champion. So if one guy is going to bring in enough money so that everyone can have $1 million paycheck, why will you not let that one guy do what he has to do for your family to eat? Because it's not about the money at a certain point in time. It becomes about the dickish ways that people manipulate and game the system because of the position that they're in. That you simply just no longer want to see them in that position, even if you were a less popular option, and even if no one wanted to see you win. I've always saw a strict parallel between politics and professional wrestling, but never so much so as seeing so many ex WWE guys still doing the same shit that doesn't work. Like, there was no moment in which they were like, maybe they were right, maybe it was me, maybe I should have just took their advice, maybe if I try it out. There just seems to be such a pride to do whatever they thought was working. Or sometimes, in the case of like the Outrunners, people may or may not know who they are, but I like the Outrunners. You can have a super competitive match on one promotion, like NWA, and have a great match, put on an amazing show for people, have a very competitive back and forth. And then you go to AEW and you're squashed in less than a minute because of the booking, because of the writing of the show. And I just don't understand why is the writing on certain shows really good, but the shows that have the good writing are not popular. You know, I've noticed that. The shows that have good writing, like tonight with Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn, the writing of the match, the choreography, it was an amazing wrestling match. It was a better wrestling match than what Roman Reigns puts on. It was a better wrestling match than what Cody Rhodes puts on. It was a better wrestling match than what The Rock is ever going to put. It was an amazing wrestling match. Silence. Silence either because it's Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, like whatever. But they put this as the main event because they knew this was going to be an amazing wrestling match. The fans didn't respond to it. Shinsuke Nakamura won. There were not boos. There was silence. There was just awe. Just awe. And that's what inspired me to make this video in this type of format, in this type of way, was that I remember talking about Shinsuke Nakamura and saying he's being underutilized, and they haven't built him up as a credible threat so that when you see him out there, you feel like that's the general issue and control across the board. I feel like it's taken for granted how big these guys are. And I don't mean like in a sense of like your name and your whatever the fuck. I mean like just size. Well, even Daniel Bryan, who like you, even Rey Mysterio, Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio that you might consider pretty small guys, they're of a size that if they got their fucking hands on you, you're gonna have an issue on your hands. They ain't that fucking small. You know, that's what Cat Williams said. I look a lot bigger in person. You know, there's a lot of guys who's 6 foot tall. You put that looking down on you bullshit with those camera phones. I'll bring you down to my size in a fucking heartbeat. And what you gonna do with that? What you gonna do then? Nothing. You know? I feel like there's a lot of guys who are amazing professional wrestlers, and I legitimately see their complaints about why they're not getting over and why they're not popular. But you have to realize, and I feel like it's a hard thing to accept if you weren't a professional wrestling fan, if you didn't like get into, if you never got into this out of a love of professional wrestling, and you do see it as a milestone in your career, or you see it as something to put on your resume, or you get on the main roster of WWE, and then you could use that to leverage yourself at all these other places that you see lesser than WWE. But I feel like that's kind of the issue, is like this ex WWE guy gimmick, and the fact that you think because you're an ex WWE guy that makes you superior to other people that have been working way harder than you and doing way more hours than you and wrestled way more matches than you and have way better careers than you do, just because you were on a television network and they were on the indies. It's like, it's really kind of fucked how much more talented the people on TNA, the people in NWA, and the people of Ring of Honor are than the people on AEW and the people in WWE. It's kind of embarrassing because there's this hierarchy mindset of what the best show is, judged by the ratings. It's all about the ratings, Bradley, or whatever whatever the fuck your name is. We're here for the cash and the moolah. Whatever the guy in the hat says. The fat in the hat. And the fat in the hat is all about the ratings. He's judging, but you're not judging this by the talent. You're not judging this by the match that's put on. You're not judging this by the storyline and the build up to it. You're just judging it by the people that you know as like an old ass fucking dude who's not even in professional wrestling anymore. You just do a fucking podcast as you like to remind people so you don't get sued or fucking asked any more like questions than necessary and seem like a fucking insider. Like, he lets it be known, so I don't hold him fucking accountable. But there's just this general fucking attitude that I see that because someone isn't the champion, because someone wasn't in the main event, that it wasn't a great match. And there have been many a times in which the main event has sucked, the middle was great, or the opener was great, and literally it was just not poor booking necessary. I guess it is necessary. It is poor booking for lack of better words. That the order of everything was completely fucked. You know, it's snowing outside. Going back week to week to week to week to week, um, there's just certain nights in which, especially doing the comparison, certain shows won simply because a different match was not in that slot. And it's not as if they know beforehand, but it's almost like it reminds me of this Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin that nobody else was willing to go out there and have this conversation. No one else. You had all these US presidents who think they're so big, so bad, so tough, but they're honestly just fucking cowards and like sociopaths. And none of them have gone over to speak to this guy. Not a phone call, not a howdy do, not a happy birthday, nothing. Just planning warfare and planning to kill every single Russian person, even though there's Russian Americans in America. You know, planning to kill every Chinese American, even though there's Chinese people in America. Like the level of depravity that people go through in competition and trying to make money. But if they could just have like a healthy competition and saying we're putting our women's match in this slot, what are you doing? Okay, we're putting our men's match in this slot. What are you doing? Especially since a lot of these guys are wrestling for each promotion. And you're kind of ruining things when they're jobbing out the hook on AEW on in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and then they have to be a legitimate tag team in NWA. Like you're fucking up these dudes' livelihoods because you want to book some scrawny fucking kid that if he didn't have if Hook was not a nepo baby and he did not have this push that he had, he would not be popular. If there was no Team Taz, he would not be popular. He just would not be over because he's barely over now. You know, it's just it's very catchy and none of it is his. All of it is just having a dad that knows the business. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a second generation, third generation, fourth generation talent, but acknowledge being a second generation, third generation, fourth generation talent versus a first generation talent that's better than you are. And let that person have their opportunity. There's just so many people that think that I'm the one, 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 when it needs to be it would be professional wrestling would be much better. I wouldn't say if it was maybe unionized. I don't mind the idea of that whatsoever. But definitely if there was more overall organized collaboration between what is going on so that my personal job is easier and I don't have to like Frankenstein your match cards together to make it make sense with the other professional wrestling shows of that week. Because it doesn't make sense why you can't get on a phone call and have a meeting once a week and say, hey, here's what we're planning. And then it doesn't have to be this competition. Let the competition be kayfabe. Let the actual organized relationship between corporations be very real and very effective to deliver the best product across the board for professional wrestling. You know, it would be cool to see one unanimous guy. Like, I don't know someone who's been in every single company. Maybe Christian Cage. I think Christian's been a champion in every company. I don't see anyone really unifying this idea, but I don't see why Christian Cage, with the whole patriarchy, you bring Adam Copeland in there as well. I don't see why he can't be the belt collector. You put the tag team belts on him and Edge, and they just collect the belts. You double whatever you're paying frickin' Jungle Sore or Lucha douche, whatever the fuck that idiot's fucking name is, Vibera, you know, why the fuck would you give your title to Christian Cage? I guess he cares more about the story. It's our title, champ. If it's your title, it's my title too. Or maybe like he does have some deep seated fucking psychological daddy issues, and like Sami Zayn, we're watching like a real life cult, and it's a real life sociopath manipulating people, and we're just not stopping it because of our entertainment. I don't know, but this was all the shows that I'm doing up until this point, and I like it. It feels good. It feels nice. I feel like I've completed all my work because I have other things that I really need to get done and be doing right now. But this was fun, and this was World War Wrestling.